Hey guys, so today I'm here to discuss the new Machine Head album, Catharsis.
And if these words are my fist, oh, can you feel my catharsis? Oh, can
The album follows 2014's Bloodstone Diamonds, which I have here. This is an album I really enjoyed personally. This had some cool stuff on it. I really like Now We Die, Killers and Kings, Ghost of All My Bones, Eyes of the Dead, In Comes the Flood. There was some really great stuff on this album. There was a few more weaker tracks, but as a whole, I really enjoyed this record. So 4 years later, Machine Head have followed this up with a brand new album called Catharsis. First off, Catharsis is 75 minutes, I think, long. 75 minutes, which consists of 15 tracks. There's a lot of short ones, a lot of like 4 minutes and stuff. Heavy Lies the Crown is the 8-minute one. There's a couple of 6 minutes, but mostly these songs are 4 minutes. They're quite short. They're quite condensed from Machine Head. Instead of albums like The Blackening, which I have up there, it's more condensed down. It's not as progressive. It focuses more on storytelling than like brutal poetry, as Rob described it. It's an album that talks more about, sort of focuses more even on storytelling. There's not as many metaphors, and you know it's easier to tell the story for Rob. So I have the album here. I have the CD DVD version. It comes with the DVD, filmed live at the Regency Ballroom in San Francisco in 2015. This was the DVD that got scrapped originally because Rob wasn't happy with the footage. I don't think the other guys were. And I haven't seen the DVD yet, so I'm going to have to check that out over the weekend or soon. But that looks awesome. I'm really looking forward to seeing that, because the tracks on the YouTube that have been released from that album sound absolutely brilliant. So the album's 15 songs, as I mentioned, 75 minutes long. It's a long record. So the CD package looks really nice as well. The CD DVD. I should state that before we get into the album. So the album's been under a lot of backlash in the metal community. I've seen some good reviews, like a lot of 4 out of 5s and sort of 8 out of 10s, and Metal Hammer gave it a 7 out of 10. However, I've seen some like scathing reviews of it. I've seen Blabbermouth gave it 5.5 out of 10, I think. Decibel magazine like ripped it to shreds, and there was someone else as well. So there's a 1 out of 10 as well. So I was nervous coming into this album, unlike other albums such as Bloodstone. When I heard Now We Die and Killers and Kings, I'm like, yes, this album's going to be fantastic. But I heard Beyond the Pale, which I thought was okay, Catharsis, which I thought was okay. This album, I wasn't as sure. But what I am going to say is, don't judge an album by the singles. Before we get into the tracks individually, I listened to this album early hours of the morning in the dark, through earphones in full, with no interruptions, and I just, in the pitch black and the surrounding silence, I listened to this record. And I think that's the best way to judge an album like this upon first hearing it, because of how long it is, how much substance there is to it. That's one thing that I need to stress before we talk about the album. If you don't like the singles, that's fair enough. Some of the singles were very weak, and there's some bangers on the album. So let's get into the tracks. The first track on the album is called Volatile, which is a politically based song. It's against. It was written on the day that there was the Charlottesville massacre, and it's a song written about sort of racism and big fuck you to the world, pretty much. Volatile kicks off with the words of "fuck the world," which it's a powerful song. It doesn't have like a 1.5-minute intro like a lot of their other albums do. Like, for example, Bloodstone Diamonds has the intro on Now We Die. It's not as long, but like The Blackening, for example, Unclenching the Fist of Dissent, long intro. Same with Under the Locust, longer intro. However, this kicks straight in, like it's like a big punch in the face instantly in the first song, and it's a great track. The riffs kind of remind me of Slipknot a little bit, but as a Slipknot fan, I'm cool with that. It's a cool track. I feel like the sort of breakdown section's a bit repetitive, but I enjoy that track. Then the title track comes in called Catharsis, which I've already heard. That is one of the singles from the album. They did a video for it. It's a pretty good track. There's the 1.5-minute intro. Yeah, I'm surprised it wasn't the first song on the album, but I think they wanted to mix it up. Phone's just gone off. So Catharsis kicks in, and it's got a long intro before it goes into some melodic, sort of clean vocals. It kicks into the main riff. It's a solid song. It's a good track. However, I do feel like there's too many ideas coming at you at once in that song. I feel like there's a lot going on, which isn't a bad thing. I just feel like there's too many ideas sort of rammed into one. But it's a good track. I enjoy the track. It's got some killer moments to it. The breakdown's cool. I feel like the breakdown's a little repetitive. Maybe the chorus is a bit generic as well. It's a decent track. Then we're going to Beyond the Pale, which was another one of the singles. It was the first single on the album. One of the more simple ones, I think, as a whole, of the main riff. There was obviously the whole like Devin Townsend controversy thing. People were saying it was a big rip-off. I went back and listened to the Strapping Young Lad song called Love, and it does sound similar, I will agree. But however, the chorus to this song is fantastic. The bit where Rob shouts Beyond the Pale. It's a great chorus. It's a decent song. It's alright. They've done better. Then we get into California Bleeding, which is a weird one. I know this is going to sound proper weird, however the chorus to California Bleeding kind of gave me a Foo Fighters vibe. It was a song that confused me a bit at first. I don't hate it, unlike other people. Straightforward lyrics again from Rob here. It's an okay song. It's more of a sort of hard rock, heavy rock song than a full out metal track, which is strange for Machine Head. But it's a band pushing their limits, which I like and respect. It's a band that isn't gonna play it safe every album, and that's what I like about this album. So yeah, California Bleeding, it's an alright song. Then we get into Triple Beam. The Triple Beam is one of the most interesting songs on this album, I think. I've seen a lot of comments saying it's like people's favourite song on the album, or one of, and then I've seen a lot of comments slamming this, saying it's one of the worst Machine Head songs ever recorded. This song sort of gives me a bit of a Burning Red meets King 810 vibe. I do think it sounds quite similar to King 810, however it definitely has that Burning Red sort of rappy vibe to it. So for those of you who are unaware, Burning Red was Machine Head's third studio album back in 1999. There was some rappy bits on it like Desire to Fire and From This Day, and it's that sort of raw sound on that record. I back that album a lot, however a lot of people hate it, which I understand. And it gives me a bit of a vibe of King 810, a band, another love-hate band, but you either get them or you don't, which is fair enough. So if those two were mixed, it feels like Triple Beam. Triple Beam, however, I enjoy personally. It's got a killer riff at the start before Rob's sort of dark, more spoken word rap comes in. Killer chorus though, and it's dark and it's powerful, and I personally enjoy it. Then we're going to Kaleidoscope, which was another one of the singles. It was the last single before the album. No, it was the second to last single before the album was released. One of the weaker songs on the album for me. The lyrics don't do it for me at all, really. It's an okay song. I don't hate it again. The clapping intro was just a bit weird and wasn't that great. The riff was cool. It's a cool riff. Chorus was fantastic. The lyrics just didn't do much for me. The whole like middle fingers in the air thing. It just felt a bit generic, and I just know Rob can do better than that lyrically. It's okay. Then another interesting one comes in called Bastards, which caused a big stir online. But when Don't Machine Head caused a big stir online. Bastards is a folk song, pretty much, with a bit of a punky attitude to it, and it starts off as Rob sort of a letter to his sons, dedicated to his sons, written the day after the election. Then it goes into this whole aggressive folk song written about equality and racism. Honestly, this song has grown on me. It was originally released on YouTube after the day after the American election, just with Rob and an acoustic. However, Bastards, they decided to do a full band version because the lyrics kept popping up throughout the album. On tracks such as Grind You Down and Eulogy, the whole theme of like Stand Your Ground, that theme stuck throughout the album, throughout the whole 75 minutes. It is a long record. So Bastards is a decent song, I find. It has grown on me a lot. At first I thought it's very disjointed. I still think it is a bit disjointed. However, the more I listened to it, the more I understood it, the more I got it, and the more I realised it is a powerful track. And as you hear it as part of the album, it seems to make more sense. Then we get into two groove metal songs, one after the other: Hope Begets Hope and Screaming at the Sun. Hope Begets Hope is a decent groove metal song. It's solid, just 4 minutes, in your face Machine Head groove metal song. Screaming at the Sun was premiered on Daniel Carter's rock show on Radio 1. I had to skip through the 3-hour video on the website to try and find it. It's a cool song, Screaming at the Sun. The sort of intro gives me a bit of an Alice in Chains vibe as the chorus. However, the rest of it's straight up Machine Head. It's a decent groove metal song. Then there's another interesting one, another acoustic song called Behind a Mask. Behind a Mask was one I heard about and wasn't sure about. Machine Head did an acoustic ballad. I was worried it would be cheesy. However, Behind a Mask is a fantastic song. I was really surprised. It exceeded my expectations of what this song would be. Sort of a goosebump making track. It's a solid song. It's very ambitious. It's very risky for a band like Machine Head. However, I find it's a great track. Then we're going to Heavy Lies the Crown. Now, personally, I think this is one of the best songs on the record. I know that a lot of people on Facebook I've seen on the Machine Head fan pages and stuff have said the same. Heavy Lies the Crown is possibly the closest we'll get to the Blackening on this record. Well, it is the closest we'll get to the Blackening on this record. So it's just shy of 9 minutes and one of the most fascinating, interesting songs on this album. It's got a 2-minute intro on it with Rob doing all these low spoken word things. Fantastic. It's got classical elements. It's got string instruments and stuff. It's fantastic. The violins sound great. Then it kicks into this sort of new wave of British heavy metal riff. Epic. It's designed for a film. It's just fantastic. And it's an epic song, experimenting with Rob Flint's dark growl with the clean melodic chorus. It's a fantastic song. For those of you hating on this album, it's fine. You may hate music, that's fine. Listen to Heavy Lies the Crown. Don't judge the album by the singles. That is a great song. Then we go into Psychotic, another decent track, pretty heavy. It's got a Machine Head groove to it. Grind You Down, the lyrics to Bastards come up again in the title, Grind You Down. It's got a bit of a sort of down-tuned, almost gent sort of verse before the aggressive chorus, which reminds me of Slipknot again, with that sort of aggressive backing vocal. It's another okay song, pretty good. Approaching the last two songs on the album, we get Razorblade Smile and Eulogy. Now, Razorblade Smile, sort of a nod to Motorhead, I think, which I'm fine with. I'm a big Motorhead fan. Razorblade Smile has completely fucking ridiculous lyrics, but Rob got what he was going for. That in-your-face, shredding song, crazy solos, crazy riffs, just great 4 minutes of metal with completely wild lyrics. So I enjoyed Razorblade Smile. The album closes with Eulogy, which is an interesting one for me. I think by itself, if you listen to the song by itself without hearing the album, it's not going to be that great, because the song feels like more of an experiment than it does an actual song. However, if you listen to it as part of the album, it kind of makes sense. It works well as an outro, I think. However, in its 6-minute duration, it doesn't really take you anywhere. It doesn't really grow. It just sort of stays the same throughout. And that's my only downside to it. It's a strange one. The chorus to Bastards comes up in the track, and it's alright. It's an okay outro. I feel like it could have been shorter. And I've seen comments about the song saying, "Oh, it's just Bastards." It's not. the chorus is Bastards, done in a completely different way and format. However, the verses are completely different. The rest of it's completely different, and it's a haunting end to the album. I find this. Instead of like putting the heavy song on the end, like "Take Me Through the Fire," for example, and it's not an epic like "Descend the Shades of Night" or "A Farewell to Arms." It's just a dark, haunting outro. And if they wanted an outro, I feel like this would be fine. It didn't need to be 6 minutes long because it doesn't take you anywhere in that time. However, I feel like this song didn't really need to be there because I felt like if they wanted a soft outro, Behind a Mask could have done it. If they would have got rid of Eulogy and put Behind a Mask there, so Screaming at the Sun went straight into Heavy Lies the Crown, because Heavy Lies the Crown's already got a 2-minute intro on it. And I feel like Behind a Mask would be a natural end of the album. However, I don't mind Eulogy, it does its job. So, what do I think of Catharsis, the new Machine Head album? Obviously I feel like this is a strong album by what I've just said about it. There's some solid tracks on here, and the more I listen to this album, the more I like it, the more I understand it. And I feel like the reason I liked this album upon first listen was because I listened to it properly, which I know a lot of the people slacking this album off haven't. I listened to it, as I said, in the pitch black, earphones in, silence around me, and I listened to it from start to finish, no interruptions, and I think that's why I liked it upon first listen. However, the more I've listened to it, just in day-to-day basis, the more I've listened to these tracks, the more I've played the album, the more I've enjoyed it. And this is a solid Machine Head album. Some of the scathing reviews couldn't have been more wrong, saying that it's awful, and it's Machine Head's worst album. It's a solid album. However, I do feel that this isn't their best record by a long shot. It's no The Blackening, it's no Onto the Locust, it's no Burn My Eyes. But I like that because it isn't The Blackening Part 2, it isn't Locust Part 2 or Burn My Eyes, going back to 1994. It's Machine Head covering new ground as a whole. It's Machine Head pushing their limits as a band, pushing what they can do, experimenting, doing what they want. And for that, I like this album. I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5. It's a solid record. There's some fantastic songs on it. I do feel like it could have been a bit shorter, like a few of the tracks could have been taken off, because not every single song on this album is amazing. However, there is some fantastic songs on there. My favourites being Volatile, Triple Beam, Behind a Mask, Heavy Lies the Crown, I think. Yeah. But as I said, I like this album. There isn't one song on it that I think is utter shit, but there's ones on it that I do think is nothing special. So yeah, Machine Head Catharsis, 4 out of 5 for me. Don't judge it by the singles. Give it a chance properly. Like, listen to the full thing from start to finish, because that's the only way you're going to appreciate this album of that length. You may hear Volatile or Burn the Pale or, I don't know, Screaming at the Sun by itself and appreciate it, but you won't appreciate the entire album until you hear it in full. It's one of them. So yeah, Machine Head Catharsis, decent record, check it out, it's out now. Cheers for watching, in a bit.